Welcome back, guys. If you are just joining us, this is INX Prime Live. Remember, we are on your screens every single Monday to Friday between the hours of 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. Now, the Department of Home Affairs has issued more than 30 Islamic marriage certificates, which it has touted as the acceptance of nikah as a type of marriage. Now, the department says that the certificates serve as recognition of Muslim marriages and to enhance the dignity of the Muslim community in South Africa. However, the United Ulema Council of South Africa has advised that Muslim marriages still continue to lack formal legal recognition, and as such, they have cautioned Muslim couples from registering their unions with the department. Now, to unpack this issue, I am joined now by UUCSA or UCSA's legal counsel, Attorney Ismail Mohammed. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to INX Prime Live.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
It's a pleasure having you. I just wanted us to have this conversation, Mr. Mohammed. I think it's such an important one. Now, we know that Muslim marriages still remain outside formal legal recognition in South Africa. What then is this nikah certificate being touted by the Department of Home Affairs?
Well, firstly, the department says that the issuance of this certificate recognizes Muslim marriages. And we say at UCSA that that is not the case, that this certificate does not recognize Muslim marriages for all purposes in South Africa. And our reasoning is that the Constitutional Court said that no Muslim marriages are recognized under any of the marriage legislation currently available in South Africa. That is the Marriage Act, the Civil Union Act, and the Customary Marriages Act. Not a single one of those three acts recognize Muslim marriages. The Constitutional Court also said that government must remedy this issue of the non-recognition of Muslim marriages because it is unconstitutional not to recognize Muslim marriages. And government must remedy the situation. And the Constitutional Court said that the only way to remedy the situation is by enacting new legislation or to amend current legislation. Now, government hasn't yet enacted new legislation, neither has it amended current legislation in order to recognize Muslim marriages. Now, the issuance of this certificate does not recognize Muslim marriages. All that it does is it provides you with another certificate in over and above the certificate that is issued to you by the Imam. It doesn't recognize the marriage. And the reason why UCSA and its affiliate bodies, like the MJC here in Cape Town, is urging Muslims not to register this marriage is because the Minister of Home Affairs and the heads of its co-opting political parties are making people believe that by getting this Muslim marriage certificate from Home Affairs, therefore Muslim marriages are recognized. And that is not the case. So we cannot cooperate in this sham of the Department of Home Affairs. That's the reason why.
Well, I'm glad that you shared that clarity because it's something that confused a lot of Muslim couples out there. But also just looking at this process, right? This process has been so long. The road to full recognition of Muslim marriages in South Africa has been actually very long and a winding one in that. What are the stumbling blocks to achieving this for Muslims in South Africa?
Well, it depends whose version you are listening to and whose point of view you are taking. From UCSA's side, there are no stumbling blocks. There's no reason why Muslim legislation recognizing Muslim marriages in the manner that Muslims want it cannot be enacted. Section 15(1) of the Constitution says that everyone has the right to freedom of religion. The Constitutional Court said the meaning of freedom of religion is that everyone has the freedom to practice their religion in a manner that they choose. So government cannot prescribe to Muslims how to marry, and government cannot prescribe to Muslims how to divorce. And that is one of the stumbling blocks. Government wants to tell Muslims that they cannot have this in their law and they cannot have that in the law. One of the other problem areas is that there's no unity among the Muslims. There are various strands pulling in very opposite directions regarding Muslim marriage legislation. The majority of the people, my subjective opinion, the majority of the people want Muslim marriage legislation. There are a small minority who says that if you have Muslim marriage legislation as part of South African law, then you are subjecting the Sharia to the Constitution and the law of South Africa. Now, in theory, that sounds pretty good argument, because we don't want the Sharia and the law to be, or rather the Sharia and the Quran to be subject to the law and the Constitution. However, at the moment, as we stand, without Muslim marriage legislation, the Sharia, or rather Muslim conduct is already subject to the Constitution. Anything that a Muslim does in South Africa is subject to the Constitution. And this is borne out by all the court decisions regarding Muslim marriages. I'm sure you are aware, there are many court decisions that has an effect on Muslim married life. The most important one and the biggest one is the Women's Legal Center case of 2018, 2020, and 2022. The 2018 was the High Court in Cape Town, 2020 was the Supreme Court of Appeal, and 2022 was the Constitutional Court. All the same judgment in the Women's Legal Center case. And that court made many orders that affect Muslims in their marriage and in their divorce. Now, if we had Muslim marriage legislation before that court judgment, that court would not have been able to order us how to marry and how to divorce. But because we are not speaking with one voice and giving government one thing to work with, that is one of the difficulties.
Yeah, very true. And I mean, also just looking at, obviously the statement that you guys have as UUCSA as well, you were saying that you're advising, obviously a lot of the Muslims to actually, not necessarily register their nikah when they do sign up for their DHA certificate. You also mentioned that, you most likely think that the Minister of Home Affairs and his ministry are trying to build up this database of Muslim marriages in particular. But why do you think they are on this process? Like, what's the purpose of this exercise?
We don't know that. We don't know the answer to that. It is difficult to read between the lines to see what the minister wants. We know that there is a particular Muslim political party in parliament who has been driving this process of recognition of Muslim marriages for the last few years. Not from the beginning, but for the last few years. And it appears that it is taking longer than they expected. And now, with a new minister in place since the last elections, they were able to work together with the new minister to get this issue. Now, this is not the first time the Department of Home Affairs tried this. The Department of Home Affairs wanted to recognize Muslim, or rather issue a marriage certificate, not recognize Muslim marriages, but issue a marriage certificate at the end of 2020 already, after the Women's Legal Center case, after the Supreme Court judgment, the Women's Legal Center case. But at that time, they wanted to do it under the Recognition of Customary Marriages Act. And UUCSA and the MJC wrote to the ministry and advised them on why this would not be legal, why this would not be in accordance with the law. And because of that, they did not go ahead with that plan. They tried it again at the end of 2022 after the Women's Legal Center judgment in the Constitutional Court. And again, UUCSA wrote to the ministry and advised them of the same objections previously. And again, they desisted from issuing Muslim marriage certificates under the recognition of the Customary Marriages Act. However, this time around, they went and issued these certificates under no law, under no law whatsoever. In fact, in an interview last night, the political party said, the head of the political party said, this certificate is issued under no law. Now, from a lawyer's point of view, that immediately strikes you as, how can that be? How can that make sense? How can a government department do something under no authorizing legislation? And that is the situation that we have at the moment. There's no authorizing legislation, or there's no legislation authorizing the issuance of this certificate. And everybody knows it now.
Well, that's very,
so
very
we
true.
cannot say why they're doing it. And because of that, we have to come to the conclusion that it's only for political reasons.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of political, interference in this process. But I just want to touch on some of the comments and questions coming in from social media. People want to know as to what you guys believe is the best way forward. So, obviously in light of this rejection of the DHA initiative, does this mean that Muslims should actually continue with just, their nikah until such time where Muslim marriages are actually fully recognized?
Muslims must continue with the normal nikah. Muslims must continue to accept the nikah certificate from the imams and from the ulama. And Muslims must try not to aid and abet the Department of Home Affairs in the sham that they are perpetrating against the Muslim community. But there's another thing that I would like to urge Muslims to do. I want Muslims to become more active and more effective in demanding Muslim marriage legislation from the government. Because the more voices we can add to this call, the quicker government will react. But at the moment, here and there, we hear the one ulama body, other ulama body talking to government, but government doesn't want to do anything. And that is a problem. But if the public stand up and do something and call government out for its laxity, then the government will respond.
Yeah, definitely, without a doubt. Mr. Mohammed, again, thank you so much for joining us tonight on INX Prime Live.
Okay, Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
You're most welcome, guys. That is Mr. Ismail Mohammed, who is actually the UUCSA attorney, just sharing with us more information on this new certificate that is actually issued out to Muslim marriages, and to just determine on whether it is actually that valuable. And after this conversation, we can clearly see there's still a lot of gaps in terms of the process, and I don't even know if this will ever change in that sense.